So good day. We are the group 5. Today we will be the chapter 5 and 6 reporting, and I am the first reporter, and my topic is all about human flourishing and progress and development. So how do we know that we are progressing? What are the indicators of development? So indicators of development are measured to use assess and progress well-being of the society, country, or region. They are be categorized into various aspects. For example, economic indicators, social indicators, and environmental indicators. We can see all around us our main infrastructure. We can build and more technology exists. This is the indicators that human are also progressing, because progressing is a start to ourselves before it reflects to our society. More often than not, development is equated with growth and greater consumption. The more that population is able to consume, the better. Jason Hickel is an anthropologist at the London School of Economics, the University of Virginia, and Goldsmith, University of London, were covered MA in anthropology and culture politics. So Jason Hickel is an anthropologist at the London. So and he is also cultural politics. So challenges us to rethink and reflect on a different diagram of development.
Heads of state are gathering in New York to sign the United Nations new Sustainable Development Goals. The main objective is the eradicate poverty by 2030. Given all the fanfare and might think the Sustainable Development Goals are about to offer a fresh plan for how to save the world, but beneath all the hype, it's business as usual. So, world leaders are meeting at the UN in New York to formally adopt the Sustainable Development Goals with the primary aim of eliminating poverty by 2030. Despite the excitement and publicity surrounding the SDGs, some believe that underlying approach remains same as before, meaning it's simply a continuation of existing practices rather than a truly innovations strategy for global change. For the last 70 years, the primary goal of development efforts has been economic growth. The idea was that if a country economy grew, everyone would benefit. However, despite all the effort and focus on growth, it hasn't actually solved the problem it was supposed to. There's a growing recognition that this approach isn't working as intended. So it refers to a traditional viewpoint within economics that prioritizes economic growth as the primary solutions to societal problems. In this context are those who adhere to conventional economic theories and models. Their argument typically suggests that continuous economic expansions, measured by indicators like GDP, will create more jobs, increase income, and ultimately improve the overall standard of living. The statement suggests that we have reached a point where further economic expansion will lead to ecological collapse and social instability. Instead of striving for more growth, it implies that we need to shift our focus towards sustainability, resource conservation, and more equitable distribution of wealth. Currently, the earth can only sustainable provide each person with resources equivalent to 1.8 global hectares per year. A global hectare is a standardized with measure that represents the amount of biological productive land and water area needed to produce the resources we consume and absorb the waste we generate. So this poses a challenge to the traditional idea of development. Instead of arguing poorer nations to emulate the consumption patterns of wealthy nations, we should explore how richer nation can reduce their resources consumptions to more sustainable level.
So the next topic is chapter 6, the good life. So the question is, are we living a good life? So, have you ever stopped for a moment and asked yourself, am I really living the good life? And our busy world filled with deadlines, gadgets, and countless distractions, we often measure a good life by what we own or how much we achieve. But deep down, the good life is not just about wealth or success. It is about finding true happiness, building meaningful relationships, and living with purpose. Today, let us take a closer look at what it really means to live the good life and whether we are truly experiencing it in the in our lives. So next is the Nicomachean Ethics, a work by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. So in this book, Aristotle talks about the idea of the good life and what it means to live well. So first is everyone is in pursuit of the good life. So according to Aristotle, every person is in pursuit of the good life. No matter what we do, whether it's studying, working, or building relationships, our actions are directed toward one ultimate goal, which is the happiness. The happiness, or what Aristotle calls eudaimonia. So it is not just a temporary feeling or a feeling of pleasure, but it is also about living well and finding true fulfillment. So second, we do certain things that make us happy and content. So so we all do certain things because we believe they will make us happy and content. For some, it may be achieving success in their career, or for others, it could be enjoying quality time with family, helping others, or simply finding peace of mind. So these choices reflect our personal idea or what makes the worth living. And third, the definition of a good life varies from one person to another. So, however, the definition of a good life is not the same for everyone. So, what feels what feels fulfilling to one person may not be the same for another. Aristotle reminds us that while the good life is a universal pursuit, the way we achieve it is unique to each individual. So, when we ask, are we living the good life? We are really being challenged to reflect on whether our actions, our values, and the way we live each day truly lead us to happiness and a meaningful life. So, in Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle wrote the following line: all human activities aim at some good. Every art and human inquiry, and similarly every action and pursuit, is taught to aim at some good. And for this reason, the good has been rightly declared as that at which all the things aim. So Aristotle once said, all human activities aim at some good. So what does this mean? Simply put, everything we do, every choice, every action, every goal has a purpose. And that purpose is always directed towards something we consider good, whether we are studying, working, or even spending time with friends. We do these things because we believe they will lead us to a better life. So, Aristotle explained this idea further by dividing the good into two kinds. The first is the instrumental good. So, good as a means of achieving something good. So this means this is something that is good because it helps us achieve another goal. For example, we study not just for the sake of studying, but because it leads us to a knowledge and good grades or a future career. Money is another example. It is good because it allows us to buy things that we need or want. The second is the intrinsic good. So good in itself. So this is something that is good in itself, not because it leads to anything else. Happiness is the best example. We do not seek happiness because it brings us to another goal. Rather, happiness is the goal itself. Once we have it, we do not ask for anything beyond it. So, in Aristotle's view, all human actions are directed towards some good and ultimately. So, we are all seeking happiness, the greatest good. Our greatest good is all seeking happiness. So, this idea reminds us to reflect on the choices we make every day. Um, just like, are they leading us to toward true happiness and a good life, or just temporary satisfaction? So that is the two kinds of uh the good life of Aristotle. So next is let's talk about one of the Aristotle's most important ideas in Nicomachean Ethics, the concept of eudaimonia, or what he calls the ultimate good. So the good life is characterized by happiness that springs from living and doing well. Eudaimonia from word means good, and monia is spirit. So, according to Aristotle, the good life is not just about temporary pleasures, wealth, or fame. Things may bring comfort, but they are not the ultimate purpose of life. Instead, the true good life is characterized by eudaimonia, which means happiness, human flourishing or living well. So the word itself comes from the Greek word eu, meaning good, and monia, meaning spirit. In other words, eudaimonia is about having a good spirit and living in a way that fulfills our highest potential. So, eudaimonia means happiness, welfare, or human flourishing, prosperity. So, for Aristotle, eudaimonia is what truly finds the good life. It is not just about feeling happy in the moment, but about long term well being, prosperity, and living with virtue. When we live rightly, by making good choices, practicing values, and striving for personal growth, we achieve eudaimonia. So, um, this is why eudaimonia is what defines the good life. So, pleasure, wealth, fame, and honor are not ultimate good. So, this is why Aristotle reminds us that pleasure, wealth, fame, and honor are not the ultimate good. If wealth was the secret to happiness, then the rich would be dancing on the streets. But only poor kids do that. If power ensured security, then officials and politicians would walk unguarded. But those who have lived simply are the ones who have the soundest sleep. If the beauty and fames brought ideal relationships, then celebrities would have the best marriages. So live simply, walk humbly, love genuinely, and life will become easy and meaningful. So this is why so they may be add to life, but they cannot define the good life itself. So true happiness is deeper. It comes from the living meaningfully, doing what is right, and flourishing as human beings. So when we ask ourselves if we are living the good life, Aristotle's answer is clear. We live it not through material possessions or status, but through eudaimonia, the lasting happiness that comes from the living well and being true to our purpose.
Eudaimonia uniquely human. Unique to human, for it is a uniquely human function. When we see eudaimonia is a Greek word often translated as human flourishing or living will, is a living full of good life by developing what makes us truly human. Aristotle's notion of three-party soul below illustrates a nested hierarchy or functions and activities of the soul. When we say eudaimonia is unique to human means, our unique human function is to use reason and virtue like justice, courage, kindness, wisdom to guide our lives. So, eudaimonia isn't about eating, playing, or feeling. It's about living wisely and morally, something only human can do. Humans have rational soul capable of theoretical, practical functions. When we say rational soul, Aristotle explained that the soul has different parts with different functions like a hierarchy where each higher level includes the lower one. Uniquely human. Only humans are capable of a life guided by reason. Of course, only humans are capable of a life guided by reasons because we are able to think deeply, reflect on what is true, and make choices about how to functions the theoretical, which is about seeking knowledge and truth, and practical, which is about making good decisions and living morally. Thus, happiness is uniquely human, for it can only be achieved through a rationally directed life. For Aristotle, the true happiness is more than pleasure. It is living a good and meaningful life. Plants grow, animals feel. But only humans can reason because if this happens is our uniquely human functions, it can only be achieved through a life guided by reasons and good choices. Excellence of any kind of moral virtue. Eudaimonia is only possible by living a life of virtue. Arete means excellence of virtue. For the Greeks, to live with arete is to live the best way possible by practicing good habits such as courage, honesty, fairness, and self control. True happiness only by practicing virtue can human achieve their highest purpose and live a fulfilling life. Intellectual virtue or virtue of thought is achieved through education, time, and experience. Key intellectual virtues are wisdom and understanding. Virtue of thought is refers to excellence of the rational part of soul which is responsible for reasoning, understanding, and intellectual activity. In other words, it's about how well a person exercises their ability to think, learn, and make wise decisions. Human happiness, or virtue of character, is about having good habits, controlling desires, and acting rightly. Or virtue of character is achieved through habitual practice. Key moral values are generosity, temperature, and courage. Both intellectual and moral virtue should be accordance with reason to achieve eudaimonia. Difference with this virtue for reasons that are only for one's convenience, pleasure, satisfaction leads human away from eudaimonia. A virtue is ruined by any excess of deficiency in how one lives and acts.